Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm very happy and honored to present my paper in the second Kuala Lumpur International Conference in Education, Economics and Technology 2020. The title of my paper is The Rhetorical Moves of the Meranaw in Kakawing Speeches, a Critical Discourse Analysis. I am Alyanah Goling Pantao, and I'm very happy that you are going to listen to my discussion. So who are the Meranaws? The Meranaws are known as the people of the lake. They are the largest Moro and cultural minority in the Philippines. They are also very protective of their culture. So my study is about rhetorical moves. So the rhetorical moves was originally developed by John Wales, and it refers to a particular rhetorical or linguistic pattern, stage, or structure conventionally found in a text or in a segment of a text. So in my case, I tried to use speeches of the Meranaw delivered by the speakers during wedding. So for my theoretical framework, just like what I said a while ago, I use the speeches in Kakawing as the text of my study, and I use theories of critical discourse analysis, specifically Fairclough's textual analysis and Van Dyck's social cognition. Also, the rhetorical moves of Swales. And from these theories, I tried to look at the Meranaw values embedded from the speeches that I have gathered. Now, for my findings, these are the rhetorical moves that were identified in the speeches of the Meranaw during wedding. So as you can see, we have here three groups. The first group is the pamakasan, or what we call also as introduction. The second one is the muayan alalag, or the message of the speech. And lastly, the kapusan alalag, or the ending of the speech. Now, in each rhetorical moves, there are different sub-rhetorical moves done or manifested in the speeches. So, in the pamakasan or in the introduction, as you can see, it's very long, which is very different compared to other Western speeches. Here, we have four subcategories. The first one is the greeting of salam. Next is the kapanabiya, or asking for excuse. So, they need to ask for an excuse when they are delivering the speech. And followed by pagadat, or it is a move where you can see that the speakers are showing respect to the audience. And lastly, the kapangungudasan, or what we call asking for permission. So before they proceed with the message, these are the rhetorical moves that they need to observe according to the speeches that they have delivered. And then, we also have the muayan alalag. And for this muayan alalag, this is actually the actual message of the speech. And these are the things that they have observed, the moves that they have observed. The mention of the nature of marriage, prayers, enumeration of family names. We also have the tracing of the lineage or the salsila, the power of clan and value of relationship, and the importance of friendship and unity. And lastly, we also have the ending, or the last part of the speech, and it ends with a conclusion followed by a salam. So we will start with the introduction. Now, I have mentioned a while ago that the introduction of the Meranaw speech during wedding is the longest part, actually, of the speech because of different subcategories or different moves that they have observed. So these are the moves which I discussed earlier. So for the greetings of the salam, we could see that there is a value about the integration of Islam, and we could conclude that this is somehow a rejection of the Western greetings. For the kapanabiya or asking for an excuse, we would see that there is a constant use of honorifics. So there are mention of titles of different officials and members of the royal family and several compliments. The same case with pagadat or showing respect. Here, they show respect not by saying appropriate words or being polite, but by mentioning the 4 sovereign states and 28 legislative houses of the royal family of the Meranaw society. And lastly, we have the kapangungudasan or asking for permission. And here, they are actually asking permission not only with the members, but with the members, not only with the audience, but also with the members of the royal family, even if they are not present during wedding ceremony. So, the most observed value reflected in the pamakasan is the social stratification, because of the constant mention of the members of the family, specifically the royal family and the officials. And if we are going to look at the 3 rhetorical moves in the introduction or pamakasan, we will see that there is a redundancy in the mention, usage, or we call that emphasis. They always give emphasis to the members of the royal family and officials. So this would indicate that the Meranaw society value the status of the members of the royal family and even the officials. So they are very conscious with the status. They give importance to the status. And also in the pamakasan, okay, which is here we could see the muayan o muayan alalag, and here this is actually the actual message of the speech. And again, here there is always a constant mention of salsila, which is the genealogical background of the bride and groom, also mention of the family names. So let me start with the salsila. The salsila is very important part of the speeches of the Meranaw. Why? Because during wedding, they give the family tree, the genealogical background of the bride and the groom. The purpose of this is to show to the audience that the bride and groom belongs to a pure family. When you say pure family, the family doesn't have any mix of any non-Meranaw blood. So meaning their blood is pure. It is not mixed with non-Meranaws. So they call it actually as mestiza or mestizo. The member, the bride or groom doesn't belong to a member of a family which was once a member of slavery, or they call it Bisaya. And then for the family names, how many family names do you have? As far as we know, we only have one. But in a Meranaw culture, in a Meranaw family, one Meranaw, one Meranaw has like 8 family names. And these family names are all mentioned during the wedding. When they deliver a speech, they all mention the 8 family names. Now, if you miss one family name, it will be very insulting on the part of the family because it will indicate it will indicate that the family is less important. That is why they were not recognized during wedding. So these things tell us that the Meranaw is very conscious again of the status. They value the status, they celebrate the status of every individual. Okay, so these are the socio-cultural values. All values identified were categorized into three. They are socio-cultural, political, and of course religious. So the values that were given, that were reflected from the speeches are giving help, close family ties, increasing, increasing of bangsa, and of course, unity. And for religious values, the kapanginig sa puunan, or we call it, again, searching for descent or lineage. So, according to the speakers, it is very important. There is a there is an Islamic viewpoint why it is very important to trace the bangsa or the descent of the family of the bride or groom. And then we also have here the kapagumana sa pamilya or multiplication or addition to family. So for religious values, we have two, just like what I said, the kapag sa puunan or descent, and then kapagumana sa pamilya, or we call it as multiplication or addition to family. So for the first one, which is the kapag sa puunan, according to them, there is an Islamic viewpoint in which that supports that the there is a Islamic implication of the value of searching for the lineage or family tree of the family. And for political, we have here three values. The first one is maintaining the purity of the bloodline, because if your bloodline is not pure, according to Meranaw society, you are considered as a second-class citizen. And then there's also veneration or reverence for the elders, because in the speeches there are constant words used referring to the elders and elders. And of course, we have here kailot sa kambata-bata or tightening the relationship. So they value the relationship because the Meranaws are known for being a collectivist. So they have like extended family and they really value the relationship of the family. So that is why also in a wedding, when you get married to somebody, you don't only marry the bride or the groom, you marry the whole clan because they are very collectivist rather. So as a conclusion of my study, through identification of the rhetorical moves of Kakawing speeches or wedding speeches, an analysis of socio-cultural, religious, and political values they reflect, the researcher was able to identify the language of ideology of the Meranaw in Kakawing speeches. The rhetorical moves were used by the speakers of the speech to express or convey ideological viewpoints in a string of discourse. So here, the ideologies refers to the values of the Meranaw. So, the ideology reflected from those values is the ideology of the bangsa. Okay, so when you say bangsa, this is actually a term that is very important in a Meranaw society. But because of the limited time given to us, I cannot discuss more about the bangsa. So that is why my presentation only limits to the rhetorical moves and the values reflected from these moves. And as a recommendation, the art of Meranaw Katerusalalag or delivering a speech is very unique and rich with structural and linguistic features. Thus, it must be preserved as a distinctly Meranaw verbal art, so it will continue to produce and develop verbal art forms and serve as a vital function of language as transmitter of identity and unique ideology, including beliefs and values of the Meranaw. So, before I end my discussion or presentation, let me share to you a quotation. Language is the roadmap of culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. So, thank you very much for giving me a chance to introduce to you who are the Meranaws and sharing to you a part of their culture. Again, thank you very much. I am Alyanah Goling Pantao and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.